My name's Ethan. I'm 24, and until recently, I lived in what I once called home. A modest, two-story house in a quiet suburb where my parents raised me and my younger sister, Lily. From the outside, we seemed like a typical family. But inside, it was a subtle emotional prison, cloaked in duty, obligation, and guilt. I've always been the dependable one. Since high school, when I started working part-time, I was expected to chip in for household expenses. It began with small things, covering my own clothes, phone bill, and fuel. That seemed reasonable. But after college, with an IT degree and a remote job, my contributions grew. I was paying for half the groceries, covering the internet, and handing over cash for emergencies that always seemed to revolve around Lily's needs. Lily, 20, is charismatic but manipulative, rarely hearing no. She's been pampered her whole life, treated like royalty. No job? She's discovering herself? Failed another course? School's too tough? Spent $800 on cosmetics and food deliveries in a week? Don't judge. She's stressed. Meanwhile, I worked, studied, and kept the household afloat. Whenever I tried to set limits, I was reminded I lived rent-free, as if that excused everything they took. The resentment wasn't the worst part. It was their casual dismissal. Dad loved saying, "You'll thank me one day for teaching you humility." Mom's weapon was silence, cold, piercing glares that made me feel I'd violated some sacred pact. And Lily? She once called me the family's walking ATM. I brushed it off with a laugh. I shouldn't have. Everything shattered on my birthday. I woke to an empty kitchen. No cards, no texts, not even a happy birthday. I didn't expect much, just a quiet day without the usual guilt trips. I made coffee, sat at my desk to check emails, and saw it. A text from Dad. No warmth, no smiley face, just sold your computer. Lily needed a new phone. Be thankful we provide for you. I reread it, stunned. My heart sank. That computer was my lifeline. My job depended on it. They knew that. Then came a second text. Also, cover her tuition, $6,000 by Friday. My hands trembled. It wasn't a question. It was a demand. Lily had flunked half her classes last semester and wasn't even a full-time student anymore, just coasting. Yet I was expected to bankroll her aimless journey while barely keeping my own life together. I texted back 2 words. Not happening. Dad's reply was instant. Then leave. You're done. No shouting, no threats, just cold finality. I didn't argue or cry. I stood, went to my room, and packed. Most of what I owned, I'd paid for myself. Clothes, work files, a backup drive. I didn't say goodbye or slam the door. I left quietly like I was stepping out for a meeting, but not before leaving something behind. On the kitchen table, I placed a folder filled with proof of every cent I'd spent on the family over the past 3 years, phone bills, grocery receipts, streaming services, even the $3,000 I lent Dad for the mortgage, which he never repaid. On top, a note, written deliberately, "You wanted me gone. You got it. Everything else stops too." Then I walked away. The next morning, my phone exploded. Missed calls, texts, even a voicemail from an unknown number, likely Lily using someone else's phone. I didn't answer, but I read every message. Lily was frantic. Her new phone wouldn't connect to apps because I was the primary account holder for the family plan. Her college account showed an unpaid balance, blocking her registration. Apparently, my auto payments had stopped. Mom left a 7-minute voicemail alternating between tears and screams, accusing me of abandoning the family and ruining Lily's future. This from the woman who once said my remote job wasn't real work because I didn't wear a suit. Dad? He called my boss, using old emergency contact info, claiming I was unstable. My boss forwarded it with a single word, "Wow." He even contacted my college ex-girlfriend, asking if I was crashing with her. He was desperate, and their world was unraveling. They didn't know the half of it yet. I hadn't pulled the final thread, but it was coming. That first night, I stayed in a simple Airbnb, a small loft on the outskirts of town with reliable Wi-Fi and no judgmental stares. It felt like freedom, like breathing for the first time in years. No snide comments, no manipulative glances, just me, my silenced phone, and quiet. I spent the evening reviewing accounts I still controlled. Subscriptions, utilities, shared banking, cloud storage. Dad always boasted he ran the house because it was his roof. But he didn't grasp how much I'd been managing digitally. I was the one who set up the Wi-Fi, handled bills, and linked accounts. They took it for granted. I didn't act rashly. I waited, letting them feel the weight of their choices. The next day, Lily texted, "Why can't I access my school account? Where's the tuition?" No apology, just her usual demanding tone. Then another, "Dad says you'll fix this. Do it." I didn't. Instead, I pulled the final thread. I logged into the family cloud account I'd created years ago when they couldn't figure out online storage. It held everything. Tax records, property documents, Lily's school files, Mom's insurance papers. They dumped it all there, never questioning my access. I saved a personal copy, then revoked their permissions. Next, I tackled the joint credit account they'd added me to when Dad's credit tanked. I paid off my portion of the balance and requested my name be removed, citing unauthorized charges. That froze the account pending review. Then, I contacted the bank. I'd set up their online banking years ago, and Dad never changed his login. I removed myself as a secondary holder, froze the shared debit card, and flagged the sale of my computer as fraud, complete with the buyer's receipt Dad had emailed himself. Selling my work equipment? That's not just wrong, it's illegal. I sent one group text. You made it clear I'm not family. I've made it official. Contact me only through a lawyer. The fallout was immediate. The school's financial office called. Someone had tried impersonating me to unblock Lily's account. I explained, and they flagged it for ID verification. Lily wasn't enrolling anytime soon. Mom texted, "Please call. We can sort this out. You're still our son." Then, "This is too far, Ethan." Then, "You're acting childish. Come home now, or we'll involve the police." Finally, from Dad, "I always knew you were selfish. You've betrayed your family. Don't expect us to take you back." I didn't reply. I took a walk, feeling lighter than I had in years. Not joyful, but unburdened. The weight of duty was gone. It's strange. I used to think leaving would make me the bad guy, that choosing myself over family was selfish. But now I saw it clearly. Survival. They didn't raise a son. They raised a resource. When I stopped being useful, they discarded me. They didn't expect I'd do the same, and that I'd take their safety net with me. What they didn't know was the envelope I left under the folder, plain, unassuming, addressed to Lily. Inside was something that would shift everything. The envelope wasn't flashy. It blended in, just a white letter with Lily's name in neat ink. But its contents were a quiet bombshell. No rants, no insults, just truth, sharp enough to linger. I wanted her to feel it, not as a quick jab, but as a slow ache that hits when the Wi-Fi's dead, the bank card's declined, and no one's bailing you out. Inside was a record of every tuition payment I'd made for her over 2 years, every cent, every transaction. Next to each, I noted dates she'd promised to step up or take school seriously, pulled from her own texts. Below that, her academic transcript, 5 withdrawals, 3 incompletes, 2 fails, and a lone C in some fluff course. It wasn't an attack. It was a mirror. On the final page, I wrote, "You always said you'd take responsibility when the time came. That time's here. It's gone. I'm done. Want a future? Earn it." No signature. She'd know who it was from. That afternoon, Lily texted one word. Why? Not an apology, not regret, just shock. I hesitated for a moment. We're siblings. We shared bunk beds, watched cartoons, held hands at her first dentist visit. She drew me get-well cards in grade school. There were good memories. That's what makes this betrayal so messy. Because they weren't always like this. But entitlement replaced gratitude over time, and family became a one-way obligation. I didn't reply. Her why wasn't introspection. It was disbelief that her safety net was gone. That said it all. Meanwhile, the chaos spread. My friend Jake called. Dad had reached out asking him to talk sense into me. Jake hung up in seconds, texting me, "Your dad called you unhinged for leaving. What's his deal?" I laughed for the first time in days. That night, Mom left another voicemail, her voice brittle with anger. "You're cruel, Ethan. You think this proves something, but you're just hurting us. Lily's crushed. Your father hasn't eaten. I hope you're satisfied. I saved it. Not for leverage, but as evidence of their mindset. They weren't sorry for their actions. They were sorry they'd lost control." I checked my accounts. Tuition payments were canceled. Cloud access was locked. Subscriptions showed password reset alerts. One by one, I severed the ties they'd used to bind me. And it felt right. But it wasn't just about money or accounts. It was about worth. How people treat those they think they control. I gave until I was hollow, just a wallet with Wi-Fi. When I set a boundary, I became expendable. That was the real betrayal. Not the sold computer or Lily's entitlement, but realizing their love was conditional, and I'd missed the terms. They probably thought I'd return, begging forgiveness. They didn't know about the storage unit I'd been filling for months, keepsakes, documents, an emergency fund, or the lawyer I'd consulted, or the power of attorney forms they'd signed years ago during Dad's surgery, giving me control over their finances. I hadn't used it yet, but I was ready. 3 days later, I waited, not out of cruelty, but to see if they'd show remorse. They didn't. Dad's final text confirmed it. "You're hurting us over petty cash. What kind of son abandons his family? We raised you and this is your thanks? You'll regret this. No regret, just clarity. They weren't caretakers. They were parasites, thriving on my compliance. So I called my lawyer. Those power of attorney forms? I'd used them responsibly during Dad's recovery, managing bills and insurance. They never revoked them. With legal guidance, I reclaimed my contributions to Lily's education fund, $8,000, backed by bank records and emails. It was mine, legally. I left their share untouched. The account lost nearly half its balance. I braced for chaos, but what came was different. Lily showed up at my new apartment, a modest, quiet place I'd rented across town. I never shared the address, but Lily always had her ways. She pounded on the door, desperate. When I opened it, she looked drained. Messy hair, no makeup, no designer bag. Just a girl who'd hit reality hard. "I need to talk," she said. I let her in, not out of duty, but for closure. She sat, uneasy, like she didn't belong. I didn't offer her anything. "Why are you here?" I asked. Her voice broke. "They're falling apart. Mom's silent. Dad's unhinged. He screamed at the bank about fraud. They froze everything. He blames me." "And?" I said, unmoved. "You took my tuition." "No," I corrected. "I took back what I contributed. You just didn't know it was mine." She stared at the floor. "I didn't mean for this." "You did," I said. "Every time you spent my money and laughed. Every failed class you shrugged off because I'd pay. Every time you let them guilt me." She cried, but I didn't comfort her. "I didn't know it'd go this far," she whispered. "That's the issue," I said. "You never thought? You assumed I'd always fix it?" She stood, heading for the door. "I'm sorry." I said nothing. She paused. "Can we fix this?" "Not until you learn to live without me fixing it," I said. She left. That was the last time I saw her. A week later, the bank finalized the account split. I used the $8,000 for a certification I'd delayed for years, landing a better job with higher pay. Mom called once more, leaving a voicemail about rebuilding the family. I deleted it. Family doesn't extort you with shelter or sell your livelihood. Family doesn't discard you for setting limits. I wasn't angry or bitter. I was free. I traveled, rekindled hobbies, photography, cooking, hiking. I met people who valued me, not my wallet. One day, I found an old photo. Halloween 2007, me as a knight, Lily as a princess holding hands. I smiled at the memory of the sister who once looked up to me. But that was then. Now I'm not the family's ATM or a side character in their story. I'm Ethan, living for myself, finally free.